Welcome, everybody, to Jeff Klein's Speakers Sitting in Chairs Chatting on Air. I'm glad to welcome Michael Butler here today. Hi, Michael.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm great. Michael's in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada.
Sunny
And,
and warm today.
yeah, what's the sunny and warm definition in this polar vortex?
I think it's 63 out today, something like that.
Okay. Well, it's supposed to be 62 here in Dallas today, so I guess it's been in the 20s and 30s, and it's been. Well, we won't complain about weather. You're a recent Vegasite, right?
You know, I looked at my calendar last year. I was going to be in Vegas 25 times for meetings and decided it made sense just to move here. So, yeah, I was just in the home. We're in Summerlin, where I'm 10 miles off the strip, and I don't have to go on the strip unless I need to, and it feels like home.
Where'd you move from?
Tulsa, Oklahoma. My four sons are still there, and my parents, and it's a great place to get back to, and I do quite often. But Vegas is good. You know, being this close to Cali and the Pacific Ocean is really has its advantages. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. The only thing I miss when I'm in Dallas is a beach. We have water. We don't have the ocean. We have water, but we just don't have any beaches. Never did
You know, I love
understand that.
Dallas. I first heard you speak in Dallas a few years ago to a group of speakers, and I love flying in and out of Dallas, but like you said, it could use more water. Although there's some pretty lakes there.
Oh yeah, boating is wonderful here, but just no place to lie on a beach. You just go out and lie on the boat. That works, right?
Yeah, awesome.
So, how did you're a book publisher? Is that, I mean, we all have lots of titles, but is that the main title you go by?
You know, the title I like to go by is book launch expert. You know, helping
Ooh, I like
people
that.
publish their books and launch their platforms. You know, everybody's got a book in them. The question is, what do you want to be known for? What's the legacy you want to leave? And really, publishing a book, you know, the internet has changed everything about publishing, just like the printing press changed the world forever. The internet has made it attainable and easier for the average speaker, author, expert to publish their book, and not just their ebook, but also their print book. We've seen it revolutionize people's platforms. It's a smart thing to do, as you know.
Absolutely. Well, and we'll spend some time talking about that. I started with an audio book, not an audio book, just an audio, because I didn't think I had it in me to sit down and get a book written. So I had a friend who was a composer and had a little studio in his home. So I stood in his son's bedroom with a microphone and headset while he sat in his studio in the next room and recorded me training people how to do a 30-second elevator pitch. A lot of the content, or at least the starting spark of that education, of which I learned at CEO Space, which is how we were first connected.
Exactly.
But what I discovered, and I've given a lot of people this advice, and I'm sure you have too, I transcribed that audio, and I also transcribed 6 hours of classes that I did, and I wrote chapter titles. So I have, unfortunately it's too long and I have to figure out a way to shorten it. I have, like a 250-page book on business networking made up of talks, education, articles, e-newsletters, and they're all in the right places. It just needs to be edited down, and obviously I need to figure out a way to make it an airplane book. Although more recently I took the transcript of just the 30-second education, added a 1-hour workshop, and made my ebook. 2 years ago I launched the ebook version of my 30 Seconds to Success lesson.
You
But
know,
I
I
still
think
haven't printed any.
it's called using power tools and making your life easier. You know, back in the day when people build homes, they used hammer nails and an old-fashioned saw, and I imagine the arm got pretty tired using that saw, you know. But now that we have power tools, instead of taking 6 months to build a home, you can build a home in 6 weeks. And I feel like, you know, use power tools when you can. Definitely when it comes to marketing, you want to stay organic, you want to stay authentic. But anytime you can leverage technology to eliminate outsourcing something, you're saving time and expense. But also think about getting your message to the world faster. You know, we used to mail letters across the ocean, and it used to take 6 months to a year, you know, to get on a ship and mail a letter. But now with the click of a button. So I love your transcribing idea, though, and I do it with video. You know, Jeff, I stuttered as a kid, and I didn't talk for about 6 years as a kid too much, from the time I was 5 to 11, because people make fun of me. So the way I coped with that is I did an imaginary television show out on the farm in Oklahoma where I grew up, and the cows and the horses and the animals on the farm were my guest on the show. But, you know, during that 30-minute segment, I didn't stutter at all. And having said all that, that's kind of how I got out of taught myself not to stutter. And probably one reason I love doing video. And just like you transcribe the audios, one feature I love about YouTube now is you can actually go in and take the actual transcription that YouTube gives you. Granted, it's not 100% accurate. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but sure, it's 80% accurate, and with a few edits, you're ready to go to market with the book.
Wow, I did not know that. Thank you. That's a wonderful, wonderful tip. And of course, this is speakers sitting in chairs, and this will be our first episode without somebody who is a business speaker or a public speaker. But you obviously you speak, but that you're so much of a resource for folks that I thought it would make sense to have you on the podcast. And I knew we had so many people in common as well. I did a show with Barry Spilchuk a little while. That was our first international podcast since, you know, he's in Canada, and then of course Kendall Lee Pernan's been on the show, and
two great friends of mine right there. Two really good people. I got to tell you though, Jeff, I spent 14 years getting paid as a professional speaker. As an ordained pastor and minister, I gave 2 to 3 sermons a week. So I kind of, you know, tell people as I refer them to you for speaker coaching that, you know, I still talk to a lot of pastors, rabbis, and seminar leaders that get paid to speak, is give you a call, find out what the latest and greatest tips, and really how to streamline things. You know, people still love to hear you speak, but if we can get people on the internet, I think that's a great way to do it, particularly in the when you look at the snowstorms up north and out east, some of these television images coming through, I realize why people love working from home and doing webinars as opposed to going to hotel meetings.
There is that for sure. I did not know that you had been in the clergy. I'm so glad to learn that, Michael. That's really eye-opening, as it were. I love learning about the people I already know and already like, and then you learn something new. And one of the things I do a 5 questions video with some of our speakers at the Speaker Co-op, and one of the questions is, tell us something most people don't know about you. And that to me is the most that and what's one of your favorite quotes are the more interesting information, as a, because everything else is what do you speak about and who do you want to speak to, and everybody's got that, but you hear some really fun stuff when it's, tell us something you don't know about you. I love that game, two truths and a lie, or 2 lies and a truth. I don't know if you've ever played that as an icebreaker with a group of people.
Yeah, I think so. Sure. Tell me, is that where you repeat something over and over again?
No, that's where you write down 2 things that are true and 1 thing that's a lie about you, and people have to guess which one is the lie. And it's always, the idea is for it to be fun stuff. Like Tracy Haynes actually does this as part of his keynote speech, and his lie is that he got arrested by the Secret Service for saying he was there to shoot the president. Well, it's true that he was a videographer in the Navy, and he was there to video Ronald Reagan, and he did say to a Secret Service agent, "I'm here to shoot the president." He didn't get arrested. He just got in trouble.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and his truths were like, I survived a volcano, and I did security for Ferdinand Marcos, both of which were true. So, mine are,
great Facebook status post update ideas, Jeff. We've got to do these interviews more often. You're filled with some great ideas.
Thanks. Well, and because I did so many years in the film business, I have some weird stories that when we do the two truths and a lie, I can things like I cleaned up broken glass off of Tom Cruise is true. Shaquille O'Neal pretended to strangle me. That's true. Stuff like that that people would not expect to be true.
Sounds a little fabricated, but in this case, it's true.
Yeah, I wish I had. Nobody had cell phones yet with cameras on them, so the Shaquille O'Neal horsing around didn't get captured on video, film, or still camera. I just have pictures with us behaving as opposed to. But here's how big Shaquille O'Neal is as a human being. When he put his hands around my neck, which at the time was probably 18-inch neck, and his finger, none of his hands were actually touching my throat, and when he was doing this, and then proceeded to shake me, and I hammed it up and just had a good old time. And he was in his Kazam outfit, which I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he showed up in it was part of this. It was a Reebok ad campaign, and Emmitt Smith, Shaquille O'Neal. I was not on camera. I was behind the scenes, but so the fun times, as it were.
Some great stories.
Have you got a celebrity brush with greatness, or whatever you want to call it, that you can tell us?
Oh man, you caught me in the green room unprepared, so I'll have to get back to that. I've got a few, and
no worries.
Coming from Vegas, you might question their authenticity, so I'll have to take a rain check on that.
Well, you haven't been in Vegas that long, so I was thinking you might have had I have a guy I know tells a really funny story about John Cusack. This is a Dallas actor. He actually told this story on set one time, and he said he saw Cusack in an airport, and he went up to him and said, I'm a really big fan of your sisters. And he wound up getting to have a nice conversation with John Cusack because he was a smartass instead of, just being some fan.
Yeah.
So
I tell you, I think it's a strategy.
So one of the things we like to talk about on the podcast, Michael, and I'll get you to tell me a little bit about some of the exciting things you have going in book world, but what are you consuming lately? Is there any new music, podcasts? Not talking about clients, just stuff that you're enjoying, TV shows, what have you.
As far as consuming, I read a lot of Guy Kawasaki and a lot of Mashable. I read a lot of James Malinchak. Other than my own stuff, I just got through writing the Single Dad Survival Guide for reconnecting with your kids and moving on through your life. There's a little. So I've kind of been locked in the underground bunker, finishing up that book. We're gonna put it out for the holidays and then again for Father's Day. So we're really excited about it. So I read things, social media. I read tech. I consume the NBA, Go Oklahoma City Thunder, and this week's got me informal about Adrian Peterson, former OU Sooner, getting suspended by.
I tell you, man. I don't think I think he's getting a raw deal there.
I think maybe they've gone a little too far on that, but we'll see. He's a great player. He'll be back. I just hated he's going to lose the rest of the season. That's too bad.
Yeah,
So
and I mean,
sports
I
radio, I
don't.
love sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, personal development. I'm a personal development junkie. I was telling a friend of mine, it's been years since I've read fiction, but I'm kind of in the mood to go on a winter cruise for 2 weeks and just read a couple, some fiction books,
Okay, so I've got a podcast for you to listen to. It's called Startup,
Yep.
and it's literally about a guy who started his own company, and the first episode is how he has a major fail making a pitch to a venture capital person. Now, this guy's from America, This American Life, and he's got a great resume, but it's 30 minutes at a time. I think he's only up to episode 6 or 7. Start up, and it'll be nice. It'll be fun for you to listen to, and it'll be a little bit away from work, but still being something that applies to work. But the other thing is, if this guy had gone to CEO space, he would have taken a lot of shortcuts off his journey.
Well, the long trips make for great stories, so I can't wait to tune in. It sounds like the type of thing I love listening to, and I got my new iPhone 6 coming in the mail because my Android died. So right now I'm stuck with the flip for 12 more hours, and then the iPhone 6. The first thing I'm going to download is the podcast startup. So if you try to call me today, you may not get through.
Yeah, don't let your kids see the flip. They'll laugh at you. I'm actually gonna plug another new podcast. I'm a big fan of Slate and Slate.com. I'm a Slate Plus member, but they have a new podcast called Amicus, which is all about the Supreme Court, and it's Dahlia Lithwick, and it's just, if you're interested in getting the quick scoop on what all's going on without hearing all the talking heads just bloviate for a while, Amicus is turning out to be a really good resource to just hear just hear the plain talk, in about a 30-minute chunk about all that good stuff. So I'll give her a plug.
If they can press it down, I'm into that. So
yeah. Well, and that's why I like The Gist as well. I don't know if you know about Mike Pesca, The Gist. It's 30 minutes a day, but it comes out at like 5:30 or 6. So I usually listen to one or two at a time, a day or two after. And he's hilarious. He's a sports guy by trade, but he does 3 segments. He does every day he does the spiel where he just bloviates on something. I talked about that. But he does segments like "Is This Bullshit?" where he brings in a gal who's a survey expert, and it's like the stuff about getting our biorhythms, is this bullshit, or stuff like that, and some of it is and some of it isn't.
Guest on there too. Controversy sells. So I think when it comes to radio, if it's traditional radio or new media radio, podcasting, I think controversy sells. And so anytime you take something that sounds a little far out and you listen to one side or the other. I've been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk. This guy is a marketing genius, 3 times New York Times bestselling author. He's on his 48th episode of Ask Gary V on YouTube, and I got to say, the guy he's an immigrant. He's Russian-born, and he became famous taking his family's wine library from $1 million to $50 million brand through social media, ranting on the internet. And he's working on his 4th book called Ask Gary V. He said it's going to come out in 2016. And so he's great to follow for authors, speakers, and really business and brand owners. So he's a lot of fun, and
cool.
He drops a lot of gratuitous language along the way.
Yeah, I'm not bothered when a podcast opens with, "This podcast contains explicit language." Although that's probably the first time I've sworn on my podcast just a minute ago, but I think we're all adults here, and
Well,
it's
we know
okay.
you're lobbying to go into Sirius and XM radio, so you do what you've got to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Lately, some of the movies have been, like in IMDb, they'll give you the count of how many f bombs in the movie.
Okay.
It's like it's a contest or something. I do want to recommend a movie, and then I want you to tell us about some of your current activities. I watched a movie the other day called Stretch,
I
as
see.
in Stretch Limo, and it reminded I really enjoyed from last century Wild Thing and Up All Night, both of which were just really fun, silly. You remember Up All Night is where John Landis plays a terrorist in his own movie, chasing Jeff Goldblum around, and then Wild Thing was Jeff Daniels, and
Yeah, he's
gets
hilarious. I like anything that he.
yeah he gets run around by Melanie Griffith, and Ray Liotta's the villain, and just really. But Stretch reminded me of those movies, and I recommend it highly. So.
Well, thanks for the tip. I'm about officially 3 years behind on movie watching, and since I've been in startup mode, well, I've kind of been in the underground bunker here, keeping a low profile and reinventing myself with some fun author things. But I think in the holidays, if I do get snowed in, and I doubt I will being in Vegas, but coming back from Oklahoma, I might, then we'll throw in some latest flicks from Jeff for sure.
There you go. Well, Netflix is the way to go. It's new on Netflix, so
Okay.
you have it on the download. The online, not the mail them to you. Anyway, so tell us about the latest with Beyond Publishing.
Jeff, for so many years we had been putting authors together with cover designers, with editors, with manuscript and ghostwriters and book distributors. And so it just occurred to me this year as everybody kept coming to me, why not start a publishing company? We had been having success marketing authors and consulting with authors on platform building. There's a great book out. I highly recommend it. It's a bestseller, Michael Hyatt's book called Platform, and it's called Getting Noticed in a Noisy World. He was at New Media Expo. I interviewed him this last January, and just a great book for any new author or startup wanting to build a brand, establish credibility. His at the end of his third year in blogging and podcasting, he only had 300 subscribers, and now he's got close to 1 million subscribers on his WordPress blog.
Wow.
So. He really talks about being consistent with your podcast, being consistent with your blogging, your YouTubing, whatever it is you're doing, because he talks about, leverage and the rule of 72. And if you're speaking on a topic, the importance of having an ebook, the importance of having a print book at the back of the room. But the biggest question I get, Jeff, is how do I get started? How do I complete the manuscript? So I know you've got friends, I've got friends that can help people get their book completed, get it out of their head, get it to market. There's basically 3 phases in producing a book, and the reason we created this free site called Book Selling System is so anybody could go to it. They could watch a video on how to turn my speaking career into more dollars in the coming year, and watch one of your videos. They can go and learn from Michelle on how to create a killer manuscript, how to bring the manuscript to market. Or they could ask the latest book launch techniques for book promotion and becoming an Amazon bestseller. So right there, we've got dozens and dozens of book launch experts featured for free, where anybody from new to veteran authors and speakers can go and watch a video on the latest news on the PR world, the press release world, and social media world, and then also the latest in website technology, what's industry best practice for an author on creating that Amazon bestseller, on offering a free opt-in, which website platform to build their book offer on, and some great content along the lines for fiction and nonfiction authors, Jeff. So I think it's a great win-win, and one of the things I coach authors and speakers on doing is how to create their own free online community and tribe. Seth Godin says if you're going to become a best-selling author in the new millennium, you've got to create a tribe and leverage a tribe and get them talking about you. And we do that on that site.
That's very cool. Good deal.
Yeah.
Is that the best way to get access to you, or is there another way to reach out to Michael Butler?
Yeah, Michael, you can pretty much reach me anywhere. Michael at Bookselling System, Michael at BeyondPublishing.net, and at BeyondPublishing.net, we've got a lot of great information, frequently asked questions, Jeff. How much does it cost to print a book? What is print on demand? How many books should I print on my initial run? What about cover design? What are the pros and cons and costs of cover designs? Should I go through CreateSpace? Should I go with a traditional publisher? Talk to a hybrid publisher? We answer a ton of questions, and that's the best way to reach me, Jeff, is at beyondpublishing.net. All the contact info is there.
Excellent. And you can see, well, I thought I upgraded it. Let me, all right. Booksellingsystem.com. You can see there right below my name here on the podcast to get a bunch of that other info about Michael's stuff and lots of Michael's friends. They also help with author marketing, and we were talking earlier before the podcast started, and Michael is a turnkey provider for people who want to get a book from their head into somebody else's hands. So don't forget to reach out there. I'm gonna pick your brain about the pastor market, Michael, because I had somebody today ask about some help in getting into that space. So I will be reaching out to you on that front to pick your brain. And this is Jeff Klein with Speakers Sitting in Chairs Chatting on Air. Any final words, Michael?
My final words would be, you've had the idea in your head, you've wanted to launch your book. I would say this year, let's do it. Let's do it together. Let's get your message to the world. Let's make it happen, because the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time to plant a tree is today. So thanks, Jeff. Really great being a part of your platform here, and everything you're doing to help speakers and launch speakers. So kudos on that, and I know we're going to be talking again really soon.
Thanks
you
so much. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks, Jeff.